What is going on YouTube? You guys already know who it is. It is OG Mentor, and today I'm bringing you guys an awesome build on classified Sentry Call. This is going to be a build that is mainly bringing you guys as much damage as I possibly can bring to you guys. But without further ado, let's go ahead and let's jump straight into it. So heading on into our weapons, as you guys can see, I'm using an Urban MDR with 56.6k damage on it. On the top left of the screen, I have primary firepower for 549,021. Firearms are 9,139. Stamina is 3,981, which is very important. Make sure that you guys keep your stamina above this through this video, and as well electronics of 2,961. We're not going to worry about the skill power right now or toughness. Obviously the toughness is always going to be there to keep you guys alive by default, but let's go ahead into the talents for the Urban MDR. I'm using Brutal and I'm using Destructive, as well as obviously the third talent for the MDR, which is Distracted. Using these three talents are going to make your headshots for one with Brutal be more OP, as well while using Destructive is going to be a must go to, and as well the third talent, I'm going to show you guys something you can add in with that later to make the Urban MDR just the overall strongest weapon for Sentry. The second weapon that I'm using is the Devil, and I have the talent of Destructive on it and Deadly. I do not have Brutal on this weapon as well because, as you guys can see, we already have 162% headshot damage, and adding Brutal onto it wouldn't really do anything extra. Moving on to the pistol, because you guys can also use semi-automatic weapons. With the pistol, Expert and Brutal are the two things that I have on this to get quick headshots. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight into the gear. Going on to the chest piece that we're going to be using today, which is called the Sentry Call's Harness. I have it rolled for a max of firearms on this with 6.0 enemy armor damage, 16,549 health, and as well 56% ammo capacity. This is a fully optimized God roll chest piece that I believe every single one of you guys should go and roll as high as you can get to, as close as you can get with my mods. As well, for the mods that I have, as a matter of fact, I have Prototype Stamina mod with 253 stamina and another Prototype Stamina mod with 242 stamina, and both of those have critical hit chance. Make sure you guys get those on your chest piece. Moving on to Sentry Call Mask, I have this as well rolled for a max of high firearms on this as well, with 8% enemy armor damage, 12% damage to elites, and the mods that I have on this is Prototype Firearms with 1% critical hit chance. After you guys get done going and finally going and setting up your Sentry Call Mask, excuse me for that, heading on to Sentry Call Knee Pads, you guys are going to also roll this for firearms. As well, you're going to make sure for the major attributes you have 4% enemy armor damage and 16% damage to elites if you already have Sentry Call rolled for firearms for the knee pads. And for the mods that I'm using for this is going to be 286 stamina with 1% critical hit chance. Now the Prototype Performance mod is going to be the pulse critical hit damage for 2%, and that's everything I'm using for the knee pads. Moving on to the holster, in my Sentry Call holster, as you guys can see, I rolled it for stamina and rolled it for electronics. If you guys have Sentry Call holster, make sure that you roll it for stamina and roll it for firearms. I wound up making a mistake on it while I was practicing and messing around with Sentry Call, see what I could do with it. As you guys can also see in major attributes, I already have 4% critical hit chance. So if you do not have 4% critical hit chance, just roll for the firearms and then roll for the critical hit chance, and then just go straight into the mods at the bottom for the performance, which is going to be a 2% pulse critical hit chance. It's going to be a lot of critical hit chance and a lot of critical hit damage with this to get the most power and damage out of it as we can. Moving on to Sentry Call Gloves, as you guys can see, I also have this roll for a max of firearms. It has 12% LMG damage, 6% critical hit chance, and 8% enemy armor damage. Now, if you guys already have Sentry Call Gloves and they're already rolled for firearms, you guys can go ahead and get rid of the LMG damage, add in assault rifle damage or marksman rifle damage, and add in a 8% of enemy armor damage, and just you're good to go when it comes to the gloves. But moving on to the back piece for Sentry Call, In Sentry Call back piece, we have it rolled for a max of 1,401 firearms with 9% critical hit damage and 56% ammo capacity. The mods that I have on this back piece as well are going to be stamina with skill haste, and after that, for the performance mods, I am using a 2% pulse critical hit chance, and the next performance mod that I have is the 4% pulse duration. These are everything that I have for my Sentry Call build as far as the gear goes, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to move straight over to the talents and everything that we have of mods on our guns. As you guys can see, I'm using an extended magazine, and they're not talents, they're like obviously extra like percentages and perks you get. I'm using an extended mag with 119% mag size, 3% critical hit chance, 5% rate of fire, and I'm as well using a C79 scope with 18% critical hit damage, 6% headshot damage, and 3% critical hit chance. For my muzzle, I'm using an Omega rifle suppressor with 18% headshot damage, 2.5% critical hit chance, 4.5% optimal range, and 44% reduced threat. For my grip, I'm using a 19% critical hit damage, 2% accuracy, and 4.5% reload speed on a small grip weapon. For my devil, you guys can go and try to get all of this if you want to for the devil, but the devil isn't really that important. You guys can just go ahead and scroll through that, try to get the mods off of it, or if you want, just mod your weapon for whatever it is that you guys feel you're most comfortable modding it with. Heading over to our character tree though, and the weapons, as you guys can see, I have a critical hit chance of 22.5%, and as well I have a critical hit damage of 71%. But the headshot damage, this is for the urban MDR, is 156%. So you guys are going to be hitting super hard since you're going to be mainly doing headshot damages, and this is what is just making this build overall the most powerful. So as you guys know, obviously everything else, the LMG percentage bonus and all that's on there, and enemy armor damage is at 65%, which I believe is almost about maxed out. If not, I believe it is maxed out, I'm not so sure. And a 3% skill haste, you guys can get rid of that if you want to, but that's up to you. And without further ado, let's go ahead and let's jump over to our abilities so I can show you guys what I'm using for that. So heading over to abilities, starting off, the things that I have for my abilities are the flame turret and the pulse. And starting off with the flame turret, this is why I said that it's going to be very important for the third talent on the MDR. I use the flame turret so I can set my enemies on status effects and get that extra 15% damage from the MDR, which is very helpful with headshot damage. And for my pulse, I'm using a tactical scanner, which is the modification for it, which just makes it really easy to get critical hits, and as well obviously critical hit chance. For my recovery, I'm using the recovery link, or for my signature I'm using the recovery link, and this is what I just use during any legendary missions or anything that's super hard. Moving on to talents, I have critical save, which says use a mech hit during low health to increase damage resistance by 20% for 10 seconds. I also am using a combat medic, which is using med kits near allies, heal group members, and proxies within 20 meters by 40%. And I am as well using tech support, which says kill a hostile while any skill is active to increase duration by an extra 10%. Now, when it comes to tech support, you guys do not need to rock this. If you guys want, you can rock precision, which is headshotting a hostile, pulses them for 10 seconds, which it also indicates that you get pulse from it. As well, I'm using stopping power, which says suppress a hostile to increase headshot damage by 25% for 10 seconds. So being done with this, guys, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you me running through the resistance, and I'm going to show you guys how I'm using my entire Sentry Call build, and hopefully you guys enjoy. But other than that, it is OG Mentor, and subscribe if you liked the video. If I went too fast, you guys know you can rewind it. Go ahead and play it in slow motion if you have that feature on your phone. But other than that, I'll catch you guys in the next video I make. Peace out, guys.